Hello and welcome to another tech tip by VMNerd. Our tech topic for today is how to create a multi-site-to-site VPN using IPSec and PFSense. In this tutorial, we will perform the following. Create a basic diagram to provide context to the network layout that we will be working with. Configure MTU clamping to control how larger packets are handled when traveling through the VPN tunnels. Set up firewall rules to allow VPN connectivity between the three site locations. Establish the site-to-site VPN tunnels between the three site locations. Configure name resolution so guests between the site locations can resolve each other. And finally, configure Site 2 machines to use Site 1's internet connection. And with that, let's get started. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this diagram going. It's just really quick, shouldn't take too long. So, bus. Actually, we'll just do it this way better. Okay. So this drawing right here, or this piece of it, is called a bus, which is the network bus is what we're referring to here. And this will actually be our internet zone. Okay, so let's go ahead and just add some text to it here. We'll call this the internet. And this is for illustration of our network topology here. So the next thing we're going to need is some firewalls. Okay. And this is our internet firewall, the one that actually allows us out to the internet to our internet service provider. And let's see, we have one here, which is for our, we'll label these here in a minute. Now we need a computer. We'll use a laptop. And for illustration, we are not going to have computers at all of the sites. We're just going to have them at 2 of the 3 sites for illustration purposes. And so we can test connectivity between them as we light up the VPN tunnels. Okay, so let's go ahead and add some IP addresses and all the wonderful stuff. Okay, so this will be labeled Site 1. Okay. This will be labeled Site 2. This will be labeled Site 3. Okay. Now, each network here has its own IP address, so 10.179.44.11. This will be the WAN interface on our firewalls. Okay. And just so you know, the 10.179, while it's not truly routable on the internet, it is routable in our lab, which mirrors and simulates the internet. Okay. So Site 2 will be IP of 12. This will be 13. Okay. Now for our LAN interfaces. 168.11.254. Switches to our LAN interface. And we'll do the same thing here. So this will be, just follow the same naming scheme here. So this will be .12. And then, of course, this one over here will be .13. Okay. And then, of course, our computers themselves have their own respected IP. So let's go ahead and go to this. This will be test VM. Actually, you know what? We won't even give IPs, so you'll just see them as we go to start doing name resolution and whatnot. And this is the machine we are currently working from. So let me get the IP. It is right here, 44.99. So let's see, 10.179.44.99. Okay. And this is actually the management machine that we are currently using, and this is where we're doing our drawings and where we'll be connecting to each of the firewalls to do the configurations. Okay. And of course, this is our gateway up here. So let's go ahead and label this as such as gateway. This is this is how all of our machines will actually connect to the internet itself, even though these VPNs and all that are not internet accessible. But for the purposes of representation, this is our internet zone. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next step, which is let's go ahead and start by connecting to each of the firewalls. Okay, so, and in the video, for those of you interested, I use the default PFSense password. I will assume you guys will have different ones. Okay. So if you look right here, here's the IP. Go back to our diagram, it'll be 44.13 on our WAN side. So 10.179.44.13, 10.179.44.13. Yep. Okay. All right. So the first thing we want to do is let's go ahead and configure the VPN clamping. Okay. And that's done under the advanced settings here. And this is the clamping. And basically what this is doing is it says any packet that's over 1400 MTU bytes, 400 bytes, it'll actually put it together when it gets to the other side. So even though the packets are going across at 1400, it'll actually put them together when it transfers through the tunnel on the other end and then delivers it to the destination. Okay, so let's go ahead and enable that. If we set it any lower, or if we set it higher, then what it's going to do is it could potentially drop packets and then not rebuild. Okay, so let's go ahead and click save. And we need to do this to each of these locations. So site 2 will get the same configuration. All right, so next step, let's go ahead and just move these over to the tunnels section. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and add the firewalls to allow connectivity between the locations. So I'm going to set up an alias for this. Okay, and the alias is going to be called VPN location, or we'll just call it IPSec VPN connections. Okay, and what we're going to do is just add the hosts. So in this case, it'll be 10.179.44.12 will be 1, and 13. That's because these two here are going to connect to him. So go ahead and do a save. Okay, now we need to go do this to each of these. Let's go ahead and alias, add, and I think we called it IPSec VPN connections. Okay, and same thing, we just need to add. So from site 2, since it's .12, we need to add .11 and .13. Okay, wow, save. And then same thing again. Okay. And yep, and we'll go ahead and add .11 as well. Apply. Okay, so now let's go back to the first firewall. Let's go ahead and build our rule. Okay, go ahead and allow. Is this the WAN side, or do we put this on the rule at WAN? So we're going to go ahead and allow. We're going to allow UDP. Source is going to be the alias that we created, which will be the IPSec VPN connection. Destination is going to be the WAN address, and it's going to be IPSec. Where's it at? IPSec, not that one. There's another one. It's like 500 or something like that. There it is. 500. Okay. Okay, so save. And we just need to mirror this across. Add UDP. Oops. Source. IPSec. Destination. WAN address. And then the 500 one. Okay, and then of course same thing again. Roles, WAN, add, UDP, source, WAN address. Okay, so do save. Alright, so in theory, these firewalls can now communicate with each other over the IPsec port there that has been established, which is UDP 500. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's start configuring the site-to-site tunnels. Okay, so IPsec, we need to go ahead and add the tunnel component here. We'll go ahead and exchange version of 2, internet protocol, the interface, and in this case here, we're going to go to the 1. Okay, so we're going to do 10.179.44.12. Okay, and no, we'll go ahead and do the PSK, and we'll do IP address against peer IP address. And just for illustration purposes, we'll do PFSense. Okay, it is case sensitive. So AES 256, SHA-256, and I just make it the same across the board. Okay. And let's see, split tunnel. That doesn't matter. Okay. All right, so that's part one. Now let's go ahead and add phase two. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this subnet, local subnet, and we're going to allow it to the remote network. So in this case, it's going to be 192.168.12.0/24. Go ahead and do this ESP for encryption. We want encryption. We'll go ahead and do AES 256. Okay. And algorithm is 256 PFS group 2. And go ahead and click save. Click apply. Okay. All right, so now let's go ahead and go to the second firewall. Let's do the same thing. Click add v2. WAN remote gateway is going to be 10.179.44.11. Mutual PS key. Paste it. Remember, it was PFSense, PFSense, PFSense. AES 256, SHA-256, to 2048. And that should be sufficient. And that's it. We'll go ahead and click save. And we'll go ahead and add the subnet that we're going to allow, LAN subnet. The network we're going to connect to is 192.168.11.0/24. And we will do 256 here. SHA-256. PFK, I think it was 2048. We'll have to go back and check that. I don't remember if I did that one right. Let's go ahead, and that looks good. Now let's take a look. Let's go make sure I did that one correctly. I might not have. Very bottom, and I did not. So let's go ahead and set that to 2048. We want to keep it the same across the board. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look and do the status of the VPNs. So we'll do IPSec, and if you look right here, we're already established. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the other one, and we'll do the same thing. And there's our connectivity. Okay, very simple, very straightforward. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is, let's go ahead and to keep this simple for now, let's go to the firewall and add rules, and we're just going to allow for now any. Okay, so we'll do any. It's just for the purposes of what we're doing. Obviously, you can clamp and tighten it however you see fit. So firewall rules, IPSec, go ahead and add any, and that should be good. Okay. Now, what we're going to do here is we're going to go to our test VM. So let's go back to the drawing here. So we have test VM1 and test VM2. So let's go ahead and connect to test VM1, and we're just going to try and ping the LAN gateway, okay, which is 12.254 from this one here, which is 11, and I'll show you what the IP is right here. Okay. If you look right here, 192.168.11. So we'll go ahead and bring up a quick command prompt. And let's go ahead and do the ping here. So we'll ping 192. We're going to ping 12.254, and we should get a reply. And we do. Okay. Now, let's see if we can get the IP for test VM02, which is this guy here. It's different. So he's, if you look right here, he's 12.100. Let's just see if we can ping him. It should work, but we need to make sure. 12.100. And we can. So as it stands, our VPN tunnel from Site 1 to Site 2 is fully operational. Okay. So now what we need to do is configure another tunnel that goes from Site 1 to Site 3. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Let's go back to our Site 1 and let's go ahead and establish another tunnel here. So go ahead and add, do 2 here, maybe 4 WAN, and in this case we're going to do 10.179.44.13 in this case. Okay, same thing, mutual PS key, my IP, and we'll use the same PFSense, whatever, that we used. 256, 2048, and we'll go ahead and click save. And let's go ahead and add the phase 2. So what we'll do here is we'll add network. So in this case it's going to be 192.168.13.0/24, and basically the /24 just means any IP that's 13.1 through 254 will be allowed through the tunnel. Okay, and we'll select AES 256 and 256, 2048, save, apply, and now we need to go do the same thing with the other guy. Okay, so go to services, we will create VPN IPSec, and we will create the same, pretty much the same rules. The only difference is the gateway it's going to go to. So in this case, 10.179.44.11, mutual PS key, IP to IP, 256, 256. All these numbers, they just have to match, with the exception of source and destination. Otherwise, you're going to get a mismatch and they will not connect. Okay, so let's go ahead and add the phase 2. We're going to take our LAN subnet and we're going to connect to a 192.11.0/24, ESP, AES 256, SHA 256, 2048, and that should do it. So click save, apply, and let's just take a look. And we are not connected yet, but we'll give it just a moment. Let's hit connect, see what happens. There we go. Tunnel's already established. Let's go back. Let's just take a look and see what this one looks like. There's status, IPSec, and look at that. We have tunnels. Okay, so from our, just hypothetically here, we should be able to ping from here, .11, sorry, this will be, we're going to go to 13.254. So this is Site 1 going over to Site 3. Okay, and we should be able to at least resolve that. Oh, wait a minute, it will not work yet. We still forgot one more piece. Over here in Site 3, we need to add the firewall rule to allow IPSec. So just go ahead and click Add, and we will allow, pass. We'll just do any, again, for illustration purposes. I will let you guys kind of lock down how you see fit. Okay, so let's go back to our test 1 VM, which is our Site 1 VM, which is going to connect to Site 3. Okay, let's go ahead and just do a ping, and it should resolve, or it should reply. Okay, perfect. So the connectivity is good. Now we need to go do the same thing to Site 2. Okay, so inside here we should have, this is Site 3. Let's go here. We should have 2. One that goes from Site 1 to Site 2, and then one that goes from Site 1 to Site 3. Okay, which is what we have. Now we need to go to Site 2 and do the same thing. So let's go ahead and go VPN IPSec, and let's do the exact same thing. So we're going to do a Site 2 to Site 3. So V2, 10.179.44.13. And just so you know, you guys really can use the host name if you want. So if your external firewalls are resolvable via the internet, you can potentially type those in. If you do use the IP address, it's assumed that you have a static IP assigned by your provider. And, it just it doesn't require the name resolution. So in the event that you have a name resolution dependency, you could potentially have issues if the name servers that host the named IP are down or unavailable, at least while the tunnel is attempting to establish. So if you have a dynamic IP, well, then you got to kind of work with what you got. So, okay, so I followed all the same rules as before. So the next thing we need to do is add phase 2. Okay, so local subnet, and I'm going to be connecting to 192.168.13.0/24. .2048. And we'll go ahead and click save, and we'll apply. Now let's go over to the third firewall, or site 3, I should say, and then let's go ahead and add the connectivity from site 3 to site 2. Okay, so 2 WAN 10.179.40.12. Okay, mutual PS key, and we'll just use the same one again. I mean, it usually is a good idea that you have different keys for different connections, but just for illustration in the video, it was easier just to do it this way. 2048. Save. And we'll go ahead and add the phase 2. So 192.168.12.0/24 ESP AES 256 SHA 256 2048, and that should do it. Apply, and in theory we should have connections. If not, we hit the connect button and voila, we have connectivity. So let's go ahead from the VM here, let's go ahead from a site to test VM, and let's see if we can talk to site 3. Okay. Ping 192.168.13.254, and we should reply, and we do. Okay, that means that our connectivity is good. We can traverse packets through the VPN tunnels, etc. Okay. So the next thing we need to do is set up DNS. Okay, and actually set up DNS name forwarding. So let's go ahead and attempt to do that. Okay. From site 1, we want site 2 and site 3 to resolve. Now, with DNS, it gets a little tricky because in a corporate environment, let me go ahead and let me put another drawing together. Okay, and I'm just gonna basically show 2 different architectures. Okay, so in a corporate environment, they typically have centralized DNS servers, usually located in their data centers or something to that effect. Okay. And it looks something like this. Let me go ahead and put some clients out there. Okay, so there's client 1. Let me make these smaller, just so that we guys can get the idea. But I mean, bottom line is this: corporate environments typically have centralized DNS infrastructure that resolve name to IP, so that way they can talk to one another and all of that stuff. However, with our PFSense installations and the way that we have things, we're going to do something a little bit different, where we'll be able to resolve the names. We just have to handle it a little bit different, just because of the fact that each site can end up becoming its own island if you will. Okay, because this is what we don't want. Okay, we don't want machines to not be able to resolve services that could be local to that particular site. VPN connectivity, while they can be reliable, they are for the most part reliable. But if you are dependent upon the internet or something like that, you could potentially have downtime and then have your clients completely offline. And yeah, there are ways to mitigate that, but to keep this as simple as possible so I can explain it easily, I'm going to go ahead and separate the DNS servers, or resolvers, as PFSense likes to call them. So that way each client, actually we'll go ahead and get rid of this, each client will use its respective resolver. So for example, this is site 1, this is site 2, this is site 3. So when a client is going to go do name resolution lookup, it's going to talk locally. Okay, and same thing with the other site and vice versa. Okay, so to make all this work, what we need to do is we need to go make sure that the local host is actually using the correct domain name. So for site 1, it's site1.labs.vmnerd. Let's go to the resolver, or actually, let's check DHCP. Okay, and if you look right here, it's actually not defined, the domain name. So that means it's going to use the firewall host name. Okay, so let's go back into services, go to the resolver, and we need to make sure we enable registration of DHCP leases in DNS, so that way they automatically will input their information in there. Let's go ahead and save that. And we're going to have to do this for each of the firewall rules. Okay, we need to, let's go ahead and do the domain overrides now while we're here. So this will be site2.labs.vmnerd.com, and let's copy that so we can paste it later. 192.168.12.254. Do a save, and let's go ahead and add 13 as well, or site 3, excuse me. B. Okay. We also need to enable an access control list. Actually, we'll come back to this. Let's go with the resolvers, and let's just do this across the board. Okay, it's the same thing. Well, let's make sure. That, site 2. Let's go to DHCP, make sure it's not advertising anything different. Domain name, good. And now resolver. Okay, enable, save. Go down to the bottom. Let's go ahead and add. So this will be site 1. And that'll be 192.168.11.254. Let's go ahead and save. And 13.254. Save. Let's go ahead and apply. And we just got to do this one more time, and then after that we'll add the access lists. Services, resolver. Okay. Check, save. Okay. Domain overrides. So this will be site 1. I'll save. Yeah, let's go ahead and add one more. So this will be site 2. 12.254. I'll save. Apply. Okay. So there's still a couple more steps that we have to do. Okay. The next thing we need to do is actually enable from an access control list perspective. Okay, we need to make sure that we have IPSec come through. So we'll do IPSec VPN allow. Okay. Basically call this whatever you want, but whatever is easy, right? So I need to enable or allow the subnets .12.0/24. Do the same thing for site 3/24. Save. And of course we have to do this across all of them as well. So let's go ahead and do that. Go back here. And if I copy and paste it, it makes it easier. /24. /24. Yeah, this is just one of those things that you have to do to make sure that this connectivity is authorized and allowed. /24. And trust me, there's still a little bit more we got to do, so we're not necessarily out of the woods yet. Okay, so PFSense has not really an issue. It's actually a routing thing, but it's related to the FreeBSD kernel. And basically what happens is any services that need to reach out over an IPSec VPN tunnel need to leave the default interface where it's coming from. In order for that to happen, it has to have a default gateway. And on your default LAN interface, or pretty much any interface for that matter, they by default don't have default gateways defined. And so what you need to do is you need to actually configure a gateway so that communication can flow out through the VPN tunnel. So when the information comes in or leaves the network, it knows what the default gateway is to get back to where it originated from. So we need to go to routing. We need to add the gateway, which in this case is our LAN gateway. So we'll add the interfaces on LAN, and we'll call this VPN LAN routing. Okay. So for the gateway, it's going to be the actual IP address of the interface. So it's 192.168.11.254. So 11.254 is site 1, which is where we're at. And we need to disable the monitoring. Okay. So file save. And while we're in here, we need to go ahead and add a static route. Okay. So we're going to call it 192.168.11.0. Sorry, actually 12.0. Gateway is going to be this guy. And we need to add one for 13 as well. Okay, same one. Okay. Okay, now we need to go do the same thing to the other two. So we'll go up here to routing, add the gateway. What do we call this anyways? VPN LAN routing. Okay. So select LAN, gateway. Since we're on site 2, this is .12. Okay, we'll disable monitoring. Okay, so go ahead and save. Oops, what did I do wrong here? There's a space, that's why. And nitpicky. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Save. There we go. Apply. Okay, static route. Okay, 192.11.0/24. And then one more. This will be 192.168.13.254. sorry, 0/24. Same one. Go ahead and click apply. And last but not least, site 3. Okay. Same name. Get rid of the space this time. And the IP is 192.168.13.254. Remember, 13 is the site site 3's LAN interface. So we're just going to turn it into a routable gateway. Okay. And go ahead and disable the monitoring so it doesn't take it down or anything. Go ahead and apply. Okay, static routes. 192.168.11.0. This says go to site 1. And when you do, make sure you use the LAN gateway. I'll save. We're going to do the same thing again. site 2/24. Okay. Alright, so in theory, everything should be good to go. Let's go put these back to here, and let's go ahead and do some tests. Okay, so remember inside the resolvers, how we enabled, let's see, I'll show you right here, where we registered DHCP leases. So what we need to do is we need to go to each one of these. Since it was unchecked, we need to release our IP. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and do a renew, and then in theory that should put our name inside the resolver. Okay, so let's go ahead and see if that works. NS lookup. So our machine name is test VM01, and if you look up here, this is where the name is at. So, and it should come back with an IP, and it does. Okay, so let's do the same thing to test VM02 /release. Okay, /renew. Looks like I have IPv6 enabled. Okay, we'll do an NS lookup. And it is test VM02. And it does. Okay, so let's make sure we can actually get to that site again, since we made some changes. Let's make sure we can hit 12.254, and we can. Alright, let's do an NS lookup. Okay, and let's just try this out here. So we're going to do test VM02, because we're going to, from our machine here, we want to see if we can resolve the other site, which is test 2's VM. So it's going to be site 2.labs.vmnerd.com. And there it is. So basically what had happened was we had to set up connectivity to allow our local DNS server to talk to that local DNS server. Okay, and vice versa. So this one should, in theory, be able to do the same thing. So we should go to test VM01.site1.labs.vmnerd.com. Okay, and there you go. Authoritative answer. It's not the authoritative answer, but it does say, hey, go here. Okay, and let's try this again. So I'm going to do test VM02. And you see how it says authoritative answer versus non-authoritative answer? So this one here is saying he's the authoritative answer for this domain, where when I went and looked up the other one, he says he's not authoritative, meaning that he went ahead and forwarded it to the other DNS server or the other resolver. So if we go back here to our drawing, right, so when he made the request, he asked him for the information. He said, I don't know who he is, and went to him to get it, and then came back and then gave it back to the client. Okay, so from here, here to here, and back. Okay, so now that that is actually resolving and working, let's go ahead and let's do a ping test, shall we? So ping test vm02.site2.vmnerd.com. Okay. Oop. Forgot the labs. There you go. So, see? No problem. So now you can, okay, so now one thing that is kind of, I can call it lame, if you will, or boring, is the fact that you have to type this in here every time. Kind of lame. So one thing we can do on our client here is we can actually go in and if you're in a domain and you're controlling everything's policies and whatnot, you can actually do this through group policy, but I'm not really going to get too far into that. But what you can do here is go to append suffixes in order. Okay, so you can do site1.labs.vmnerd.com as one. You can, let's copy and paste this. Okay, so we'll do a site2. Yeah, I'm not sure if this will work, but we're going to try it. I mean, in theory, it should. Site 1, 2, and then we'll make this the primary. I just want to see if this will work, okay? So, I don't know if that really matters either. Okay, so let's go ahead. Exit this out. Let's disable, re-enable, refresh. And let's see if we refresh renew. I'm just testing to see if this works. I'm actually curious myself. It should, but we'll see. So in theory, I should be able to type test VM02 and it should resolve. And it does. So basically what had happened is my client said, hey, I'm looking for this host name. I'm looking for this particular host name. I want you to check in the following areas. Okay. And when we specified the search suffix, it knew to go check each one until it got the answer that it was looking for. Okay, so let's go ahead and add site3.labs.vmnerd.com. Okay. Okay, he said, hey, I want to resolve his name. And he said, well, the first one didn't have it, but the second one did, and that's the results it came back with. Okay, and now for the final step. And that is to enable Site 2 to use Site 1's internet connection. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, so here's Site 1. One of the first thing we need to do is we need to go to the NAT translation table and look at our outbound configurations. And right now it's just these that are allowed through. Okay. Oh, it looks like 12, everything's already allowed through, so we're good from that perspective since there's an auto update rule that went ahead and enabled NAT for IPSec. Okay. So with that being said, let's go ahead and configure Site 2 connectivity. Now, before we do this, I want to go ahead and show you what our external IP is to the internet. Okay, at least in the internet zone. Okay, if you look right here, we have VMNerd IP website. And click on that. It's just ip.vmnerd.com. And if you look right here, our outbound internet IP is 10.179.44.12. So when we're done with this, in theory, it should be 11. Okay, so let's go back to the firewall. This is actually not as difficult as it sounds. It's actually just a VPN, an IPSec VPN change. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, so open up your tunnels. You're going to go to phase 2, which this is connecting to Site 1. Okay, we just need to modify the tunnel information. So instead of having 192.168.11.0, we're going to switch this to 0.0.0.0. Okay, and we need to switch this to 0 as well. Okay, and basically what we're saying is any traffic that leaves this interface, this is where it's going to go. Okay. Okay, 0.0.0.0, and then let's see, same thing. We got to go back to the Site 1 firewall and do the same thing. So this is coming from Site 2, and we need to go and specify what subnets are allowed through. Okay, so in this case here, the remote network is there, but the network that it's going to is going to be 0.0.0.0/0. And we just need to make sure that I think that's correct. So we'll find out right now. Okay, let's go back here one more time just to make sure. Remote subnet is anything. Okay. All right, let's go test it out, shall we? Here we go. So before we did this was our gateway. So now let's go ahead and surf the internet, see what happens. I might have to refresh. Nope, that was it. See, that's actually not too difficult. And one thing I would like to do before we go any further is I want to go ahead and test and make sure I can still connect to site 3, 13.254, and we can. And let's just see how it's getting there, shall we? Is it going directly, or is it actually going through site 1? That's going to be the real trivia. Site 2, it's going from site 2 directly to site 3. Well, I hope you enjoyed our video on how to create a multi-site-to-site VPN using IPSec and PFSense. Have a great day. Don't forget to check out our YouTube channel for more tech tips.